Do you feel powerless, unseen, unheard, unvalued? Are you living an inauthentic life driven by the expectations and demands of others? A life dictated by your past, your wounds, your scars? Well, it's time to break free. Join Ellie Shefi and her special guests as they guide you on a journey to leave the chains of your past behind and step into a life of your own design. Welcome to You Are Not Your Scars. Here is your host, Ellie.
Hello and welcome. Today's guest is a former software developer for Fortune 500 companies turned principal designer for an award-winning interior design firm, turned event designer and producer. In her current role, she brings together her technological experience and her design experience to create and implement unique and impactful online experiences and events for her clients. Passionate about helping people use their voice and share their knowledge and experience as a vehicle for change, she is the host of the Now or Never show and the co-host of Life 2.0. Welcome, Sabrina Teekah. Oh. Wow, you have had quite a journey. What drew you to computer science and software development initially?
So, thank you. Thank you for having me. This is great to be with you in person. What drove me to software development is, I'm not sure there was one thing, but I'm always fascinated with puzzles ever since I was a child. And to me, software development is one big puzzle. And I started studying that, and I was fascinated. Of course, this was back in the 80s when it was the dinosaur age of coding. So I just loved it. Yeah.
Amazing. And then you had quite the pivot from software developer to interior design. What was the impetus for that? Take us on that journey.
Well, okay, so after I started working in corporate America, and software takes a lot of concentrated effort, like anything else, right? But after 17 years,
that's
probably
a long
little
time.
bit of I was pretty much burnt out. I was burnt out because you're working on deadlines. Sometimes I would have to be on call. I would hate it if I have to be on call for payroll because the next day, if the payroll didn't run, then we were in trouble. So those types of things, I was like, I'm done. And at that time, when I made that decision, my kids were still very young. And I thought, no, I need to sort of rethink this whole thing. And after I was home for a little while, I was like, I need to do something. I need to do something where I can control my own time. That was really critical for me to control my own time. And I was like, I really like this interior design thing. I didn't even know you could study that when I went to college, because my mom was always rearranging our house in some way. Yeah, and the house would always be rearranged at Christmas time or whatever time, and this, that, and the other. And I never knew it was a profession, to be quite honest. And I thought, this interior design might be interesting. So I went back to school, studied interior design, and I thought, well, this is like computer science. You sort of have a vision and implementation, but we're just using some different tools in between. So to me, it's the same thing, using a few different tools.
That's amazing, because I would have never envisioned that computer science and interior design were at all the same thing. My brain does not recognize that. But hearing you explain it, it actually makes perfect sense. You're executing a vision, and it's the pieces of the puzzle to bring the vision to life. So I love the fact that now you get to use both of those experiences to create online experiences, online events, as this incredible virtual event planner. What gave you the idea to marry the two professions and become an online event producer?
So my journey has taken many different twists and turns. And in March of 2020, I attended this 3-day event, Where is Where I Met You, online, by the way, 10 hours a day, 30 hours of sitting on Zoom, and we were not bored. So the reason why I attended the event was I was teaching 3-hour classes at the college as part of that other little thing that I do. And I was like, how do I make this online thing more interesting? And I knew Sage Event Management from their in-person events. So I thought, if anybody knows how to do this, they know how to do this. And after I went through, I got some really great ideas. Then I started noticing the questions that people were struggling with in the Facebook group to actually put on their event. And I was like, well, I know how to build a password protected dashboard. I know how to build an email sequence. I know how to, that's taken my computer science brain, but I also know how to make your digital environment appealing, because in interior design, it has to be, you follow certain rules, you follow certain, and it has to appeal to you so that your environment really feeds your soul. And I was like, well, this makes sense. So it's kind of weird. That's how that started.
It was the perfect marriage of the technological experience with the aesthetics and the design experience, and knowing what little touches actually take a Zoom meeting and elevating that to a full experience that is engaging, that is immersive, that is captivating. So it really is the perfect...
It was the perfect sort of marriage. And the other thing that I bring into that whole mix is experiential design, because I teach customer journey mapping. And I was like, okay, well, you come to this event and you're on a journey. What is that incoming experience and what is that outgoing experience? And there's something that we used to do in interior design when we did model homes, because when you're looking for a house, you're naturally going to look at 20, 30 houses or whatever. Right. And we're like, well, how do we make the person remember our house? So it comes from a different angle of a residential design for somebody living there. When you do a model home, right, you have to know who you're marketing to. You have to know your ideal target market on all those types of, we build an avatar, we build a family, we give them professions, this, that, and the other. And so we're very clear on who is our target. And then we come up with this other thing, is what is the talking point that we want people to leave with? Yes. We actually come up with a phrase.
That's amazing. And in interior design, in the home design. Fascinating.
We come up with this phrase, and each house has a different thing. So this one house, to illustrate the point, is we wanted the person to say, oh my God, you remember that wallpaper in the powder room? So how do we create that? So we had this amazing design. Everything is perfect and everything is perfectly placed. And in the bathroom, in powder room, we did a beautiful wallpaper that had the scale, the proportion, everything was perfect based on design rules. Yeah. But the theme was wrong. The theme was teacups and saucers. And we were like, okay, that should get their attention. Because it was the unexpected. Yes. You don't expect teacups and saucers in a powder room. Yeah. In a bathroom situation. So we wanted that expression. So when I do design for anything, I want to know how you want to feel. Yep. And what you want to remember. Because I can tell you a whole bunch of stuff, but if you don't get that emotional feeling evoked, matched with a certain memory, you're not going to remember that, oh my God, that house was gorgeous. Because once you get that memory point activated, then you kind of remember the rest of that house. Yeah. Right? So it's the same scenario. Once you get that memory point activated in whatever it is that you're doing and these events, then everything else kind of falls into place. It's like a focal point of the whole event.
I never would have thought about it that way. And it is so fascinating and so on point and so necessary, particularly in our new online environment, where we are on Zoomzilla for 18 hours a day or 14 hours a day.
Right.
And we don't even know what day it is. We don't know what meeting we were just on. So to have that journey, that experience, what do you want to feel? What is that memory point to make the events that your clients are hosting really stand out and not just be yet another Zoom meeting, not just another event, not just another summit or class, but an actual experience.
Yeah.
And to bring in the psychology of it.
Absolutely.
The proportions of it, the aesthetics of it, the emotions of it, the psychographics of the audience, to bring that all together, and then also have the technological expertise to be able to execute on that vision. I can see why people flock to you.
Yeah.
That is an incredible skill set. And it seems like everything you've experienced in your professional journey has brought you to this moment. It has perfectly positioned you for the online environment of the pandemic and now going forward.
Yeah, definitely. And the other set of tools that I needed to add to that mix was really understanding how would I use Zoom as our tool to evoke those emotions, because I don't have fabric, I don't have this, I don't have that. How can I use the tool to facilitate and evoke those emotions? What is that going to look like? Is it going to look like a breakout room? Is it going to look like me playing audio? Yeah. So it's a little bit more challenging because your tool set is limited with the execution of it, right? So being really conscientious about, if I want to evoke a feeling of happy, sad, joyful, whatever, how can I evoke that using this tool and using this other thing and this other thing, you know, like how can I plan that out?
Right. How can you create that customer journey to be the experience at each step?
Right, at each moment that matters, right? So this whole journey, you can't plan every single moment, but there are moments that matter in the journey. So certain moments, like for example, when you walk into a space, the first moment that matters is like you're in the space. What are you feeling? What are you experiencing? Where does your eye go to?
Yeah.
And where do you want that eye to travel? Because your eye goes to a certain place and then it travels so that you can have the whole experience of the space. It's the same thing that you should be doing for your online digital venue. It's your digital venue. So you have to be really conscientious about that.
Yeah.
And I do put all that thought into when I build things for people.
That's remarkable. All of the little details. It's the same as when you walk into a house and the books that are on the coffee table, the flowers that are in the vase, whether they're real or not. What is the fragrance? What are the lights? Yeah. All the details. And I love that, the moments that matter. So I want to shift gears a little bit and let's dive into some other moments that matter from your life.
Absolutely.
So you have this illustrious, diverse, interesting, fascinating, really epic professional career. But it hasn't always been smooth sailing and easy. And you have had many moments that have really shaped your life from childhood, from the experiences that you had growing up. So share with us some of those pivotal moments, those moments that matter.
So, yes, I've had a very interesting life. So, a couple of things that stand out to me. When I was less than 10, I was always curious, really curious about life in general. And my biggest question was, I don't understand why they say the parallel lines don't meet when the sun's rays are supposed to be parallel, and they do meet at some point on the ground. So that was like a big question in my mind. Who thinks about that when they're less than 10?
Right.
I was always fascinated with mathematics, and I always wanted to be a mathematician. But I always felt like puzzles were like fascinating to me. So this was all puzzled. And then at a certain point in our country, we couldn't further your education because there just wasn't options, right? So I had to leave. And fortunately, I had older siblings that lived in Canada and the US and things like that, so that we can go away. And that was really a brave moment.
Yeah.
You know?
So tell us a little bit about where you grew up. You mentioned that at a certain point, there just weren't any other opportunities. So what opportunities did you see growing up? And when were you aware that there was a limit to what you could do or study or achieve? When did you notice that you were going to have to go somewhere else to have the life that you envisioned?
So I am one of 6 children. I'm number 5. So I had siblings that this was their path. And so I knew that this was possible, because my eldest sister left to go study more nursing in England. So we lived in Guyana, and it was British Guyana at the time. And so in order for her to further more, she had to leave the country. So we were under British rule, so it was easier to get to England.
Right.
So she still lives there. She's been there forever. And another brother, and he wanted to further his education as well. He was a teacher. Now he is a professor at a couple of different universities in Canada. And so he went to Canada. Then my other brother, he went to Chicago. And so because our siblings, this was a thing.
Right.
And it's not just our family, it was the norm in the country.
Right.
Right? It was the norm. So when came my time, I was like, okay, where do I go? I have England, the US, or Canada. Right?
Those are the options.
Those are the options because my siblings were there.
Right.
And in order for you to actually migrate, you have to be sponsored and go through the whole
thing. Yeah.
The whole thing. And it took me 2 years of paperwork in order to get to my brother in Canada because he sponsored me. And so that took some time to actually get there.
Talk about tenacity and drive and dedication.
Yes, actually. And the other thing, I don't think sometimes I take like a step back. Most people in Guyana at that time, you can leave the country. Well, we're not like hugely wealthy or anything. I mean, we had everything. My father was a minister. So the compassion and the love of people and service is how I was brought up. And understanding what's possible when you're a little child is really important.
It's critical.
It's so critical.
Who instilled that?
Well,
that curiosity, the understanding of possibility in you?
I think my mom and dad. My dad taught himself 7 languages.
Wow.
And he actually did comparative religion. So he would study other religions, and sort of that was his thing. And my mom was the gentle giant, right?
Yeah.
And she was the teacher of life, as far as I'm concerned. You know, she'd be like, always respect everybody. Everybody's got something to teach you. So don't ever think you're above anybody else. Listen and learn. And if you don't have anything good to say, then shut your mouth.
Yeah. Good life lessons.
Yeah. So those things. But on the other hand, I had lots of relatives that were super wealthy. And so I saw possibilities to build and grow. You saw things that, oh, wait a minute, when you have a wedding, you go to a different country to shop and come back. Like those are the types of things. And then I had family members that were in the government. And so I had a really good exposure to what's possible. And so I think from early on, it's just really understanding that whatever you want, you can sort of work towards the possibility. Because I don't think I've ever mentioned this to you, but I left Guyana with $5. $5 is all that I had.
Wow.
So building from there to having 2 kids that went to Emory University and law school and everything, paying all of that, I feel like we've really given them a good foundation, but we had to work to get there. To be able to do that.
So holding on to the dream of what's possible. And then having the curiosity and the resourcefulness, because if you only have $5, you don't have the resources. You may have had other people in your family with the resources, but they weren't writing the check for you. So having the dream and the vision, believing that it's possible, but then within yourself, having the curiosity, the dedication, the drive, the tenacity, the resilience, and the passion to go after it and build a life that you love. That's so inspiring. So inspiring. So you've learned from a lot of people. You've had the opportunity to be surrounded by these incredible people. You've continued that in programs that you've taken, in careers that you've had. What is the best advice that someone has given you?
I think it comes from my mom. And it's that respect everybody, and everybody has something to teach you. And so there are times when you get mad at whatever situation. And when I was a lot younger, I think we all go through a phase of, I'm right. Right? And then I learned, as I did a lot of self-development, I learned that I'm not the judge. Nobody made me judge. And I'm here to learn from people, good, bad, or ugly. And once I learned the lesson that somebody was placed in my life to teach me something, I was like, oh, what am I supposed to learn? What am I supposed to learn here?
It seems like that shift, that paradigm shift, the perspective shift, allowed you to be open to receiving.
Absolutely.
And remove some judgment.
Yes, because there were times in my life journey that I'd be stressed out. I'd be like, oh my God, blah, blah, blah. And this stress and weight lives in your head. After many self-developed, many Wayne Dyer, many Deepak Chopra, hours and hours, 4 hours a day. From 2012, I was just looking at it because I have a reminder on my phone. To now, I do some self-development work. It used to be 4 hours a day. It's probably like about an hour a day now because I just don't have enough of the time. But I was like, somebody says you got to be 10,000 hours before you're an expert. I'm still not an expert, and I've passed 10,000 hours.
Right?
You know? I know. It's just, I now say, okay, the rent in my head is really expensive, and not everybody can afford it. So I don't let things live in my head.
That is so profound. Say that again. For our audience, I want that to sink in.
So the things that you allow to live in your head, can they really afford the rent? Because what somebody else thinks about you is none of your business. It's their thoughts. You can't control their thoughts. So when you come to accept that, you live a much freer life. You live a much happier self. You're a happier self, right? I only let things live in my head that really matter to my life. If somebody else's opinion, it's like, sorry, you don't put food on my table. I can't. I can't waste that energy. I'd much rather go learn something.
Tony Robbins says, where focus goes, energy flows.
There you go.
So it's a similar thing. What you focus on, you'll find.
Exactly.
And what you
Totally.
focus on, you'll feel.
Totally.
So standing guard at the gate of your mind.
There you go.
And
Yes.
not letting anything in that doesn't serve you.
Yes.
If it doesn't serve you, if it doesn't make you feel better, if it doesn't help you get to your goals, if it doesn't move the needle in the direction that you want, they can't afford the rent.
They can't afford the rent. They
And it doesn't
cannot
go in your
afford-
head.
And it does not live in my head. Sorry.
That,
I'm sorry.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, yes,
You can't
yes,
afford
yes.
the rent. Sorry.
So let's piggyback on that and let's talk about some freeloaders that like to pop into our head. How do you deal with the negative chatter that comes up, the inner critic, the fear, the doubt, the imposter syndrome? All those freeloaders that like to come in and take up that space in our head but can't afford the rent. How do you deal with them?
So I think what has helped me is hours of self-development. It is not a switch that you can turn things off, right? I'm further along in my journey of dealing with those voices in my head. But when they first started, it took lots of time. And some of the things, you have to be, first of all, aware of it.
Yes.
Before you can fix it. And you have to want to fix it. Not everybody wants to fix it. Some people thrive on stress and chaos. I don't. I need to honor myself.
Yes.
And the way I honor myself, there are many different things that I do for that. And one of them is, why would I take your stress and give me a heart attack?
Yeah.
Really? No. You don't get to do that.
Yeah.
And these negative things don't get to do that. So talking about the negative pieces, it does take time. So some of the things that I did initially to help me, now it's more of a habit, so
Right.
I'm better at it. But at first, it was very difficult. So I had to keep guard.
Stand
right?
guard at the gate of your mind.
I had to stand guard. And I was like, okay, well, how can I change this? How can I make it seamless? So if I had a practice that I would do, I would tie it to something that I do naturally. So if I did coffee in the morning, I would tie studying for 10 minutes or meditating for 10 minutes to the thing so that I can make it easier to remember.
So habit stacking.
So habit stacking, right. And then I did things like, okay, triggers of, if I enter a room, what energy do I bring to this room? What value do I bring to the room? Or if I come into my house, what baggage am I bringing in?
yeah.
So those types of things. And then I would put reminders on my phone. And gradually over the years, like I have an old phone, and that reminder of I have something called a bookends of the day, which I learned from John C. Maxwell. And the question is, I have two questions that I start and end my day with. The first question is, who can I help today?
Yes.
And the nighttime question is, who did I help and how did I do it? So I look for opportunities to be of value to somebody else. But it's not something that, like I said, it's not a switch.
Yeah.
You have to want to do that, because I want to leave this world a better place because somebody knew me.
Yeah.
Because I helped them take that one step that I'm holding space for them if they can't hold that space for themselves, or whatever it is, right? So I put it on my phone, and the phone reminds me every morning, every night. At first, it's hard. At first, it's very hard. But I had a desire, a burning desire, like they say, to actually develop that habit. And one of the things that I do is I try every year to instill another habit. Like,
One piece at a time.
One piece at a time. How do you eat an elephant, right?
Yeah.
One piece at a time.
Yeah.
And progress, not perfection, like we say. So it's just habit stacking, like you said. I like that term.
Yeah. Adding one more thing, one thing at a time, to something you're already doing that is already part of your routine.
Yes.
So you're not overturning the apple cart.
No.
It's not overwhelming.
Too hard at first.
Yeah.
It's too hard.
And you're building in the reminders. I love using the technology of your phone to give you a reminder.
Yes.
I use songs that I love because
Okay.
I love to have a good dance party.
Yeah.
And in the hustle and bustle of the day with Zoomzilla and back-to-back meetings, next thing you know, it's the end of the week.
Yes.
Forget the end of the day. It's now the end of the week, and all you've done is sit at the computer. So I like to have fun little songs when they're set about 6 times during the day.
Oh, okay.
So it will go off. And I love the song, so I immediately start singing and kind of dancing, and then I give up. And I put a note similar to the question that pops up that is an affirmation, or the next one may be a reminder. I tend to forget to eat because the day goes. So I actually have one that says nourish yourself as a reminder. So I love the idea of using the technology, using your habits that you already have. I think it was a really insightful point that when you walk into a room, because we walk into rooms
All the time.
all the time. And so by anchoring a emotion, a thought, a behavior, a new habit to that thing that we already do all the time,
It helps you to remember.
it helps you to remember. It's a moment that matters.
It's a moment that matters. There you go. It all ties back,
Yeah.
right? It all ties back. And I do have this, on Life 2.0, we had done a show called How Do You Honor Yourself? And we did a little survey of about 100 people. We took 50-50. And 95% of the people, when we asked them, how do you honor yourself? They said something about what they do for somebody else. There's 1 or 2 people only that actually said how they put on their own oxygen mask first.
Yes, yes.
Right? And it's so interesting, especially as women.
Yeah.
We're always kind of doing things for other people. We're the nurturers, right?
Yeah.
And so who nurtures us,
Yeah.
right? We have to nurture ourselves, because that's where self-acceptance,
Yep.
self-confidence,
Yep.
that's where that comes from, you know?
So how do you nurture yourself? How do you honor yourself? What is your self-care routine?
Okay, so my self-care routine, I grew up with afternoon tea. And being in a British country and everything, my mom would have tea ready for us at about 3 o'clock when the bus came back, or whatever, we came back from school. And she would sit there and talk to us about our day. And we'd have tea and a little snack or whatever. And it was really interesting. I still love afternoon tea. So I still take that moment that matter.
Yeah.
It's a moment that ties me back subconsciously to my mom.
Yeah.
And it's also a moment to just sit for 5 minutes and really enjoy a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, whatever it is. But I like coffee in the morning, tea in the afternoon.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. The other thing is I really pay attention to what my ears hear. And I pay attention to how I process it. So
What you allow in.
what I allow in to take root.
Yes.
Okay? So for example, the news right now, I look at it as a soap opera. Oh, what's the episode today?
Right.
Right? So I just need to know, should I be in the basement because there's a tornado? And that's kind of how I see it, right? And then there are certain words that I don't use because I didn't grow up with them. I feel the dictionary is pretty large, like you could find a different word.
Right?
You know?
Right.
So to me, honoring your word, honoring your speech, your language, really honoring your emotions. Like, how do I want to feel today? Being aware of that, for me, is critical. Because I grew up in a very peaceful household, in a household that promoted taking care of each other and reaching out to people and being there for people. And so that's just part of who I am, right? And I could not be bothered with somebody saying this or that. Like I said, I've come to the point now where whatever somebody thinks, you know, if I put something and I have a period missing or some word spelled wrong, well, that's the way it is. If that's the point that you get out of what I'm trying to say or do or bring value to your life, if that's what you're looking at, then you're not my right fit, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I look at that whole thing. And that to me is how I honor myself, is I do take time for myself. If I feel that I'm overworked, overstressed, or like I'm not feeling quite right, I go have a nap.
Yeah.
Or I go for a walk to the bookstore. I love the bookstore. I go sit and have a cup of coffee. I'm fine with having coffee by myself. I'm fine with eating. I am fine with my own self.
Yes.
I love journals. I have a stack of them. I have ideas coming out the wazoo, And so that's kind of my outlet. And I took this test. I call it my test.
Yeah.
And I was reading this book that says how we are allowing our brain cells to die out and how do you live longer and and I was like, whoa, this is interesting. And they were talking about just a simple meal and how fast we eat a meal.
Yeah, you sit down and start shuffling.
Yes. And I was
because you're eating in between Zoom calls.
Exactly. But there are times when we should take time to really enjoy what it looks like, what it feels like, what it tastes like, because some of those cells are dying out because we're not paying attention to it.
Yeah.
So
that's a great example, too, of being present.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Training yourself
to be present.
To be present.
Correct.
And to be present in each moment.
Correct.
And to pay attention to what you see, what you smell, what
Using
you
your
taste,
senses. Yes.
what the texture is,
yeah,
what you are feeling throughout that experience. It's a great practice that the audience can implement
right away. Absolutely.
To slow down, to train yourself to be present and to notice and to become aware.
I challenge you guys, please don't do it at home. Do it in a space that inspires you, right? Do it in a space, because you're home, all the dishes will be calling you and all the laundry will be calling you. So do not do it there as the first time. I did it at Longwood Gardens and I challenged myself. How long can I sit at this meal by myself? It took courage. It took stamina. It took everything in me not to drink that coffee so fast. It took everything. And then as a result of that, and I journaled about it all the time that I was there. And as a result of that, I ate less food. I was like, oh my goodness, I can't finish this. And I knew if I did not take that, just really noticing every single thing, I would have finished that and even didn't know that I ate.
Yeah.
Right? Isn't that how sometimes you're like, wait a minute, I ate that sandwich? When?
Yeah.
So really, it's a great exercise. And do it in a space, like I said, that inspires you, right? Because then if you want to wander, there's something interesting to wander, and not something calling you to work.
Yes. So on that note, what inspires you?
Innovation. When I see people take ideas and make them into something amazing, it's like, wow, that's fascinating. It inspires me you inspire me. I don't know how you get everything done. I'm blown away with how much value you bring to this world. I'm blown away. I'm blown away at when people take a bad situation and figure out how to make a good one out of it. Like, for example, Bloomberry, our mentors, thinking about how can I change this whole industry of us doing in-person events to how can I pivot it to an online event that is like fascinating, right?
Yeah.
And I look for, well, what is it that I'm doing that I can do better? So I look for things to make what I do better. That's what inspires me.
So growth inspires you.
Yeah, growth inspires me.
Progress, innovation, creativity, it
and
sounds like.
spaces.
Yes.
And experiences. Those things really fascinate me. The other thing that really fascinates me too is buildings, architecture. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. So we've touched on what lights you up. We've touched on your self-care. We've touched on what inspires you. How do you deal with challenges? Let's flip to the other side. How do you deal with obstacles that come up or challenges that may arise?
So early in my journey, it was fear and doubt. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, I can't do this thing, whatever it is. Then pausing to really say, okay, what is this thing? Mm-hmm. Has it been done before? Did somebody else do it before? Well, then if they can figure it out, I can figure it out.
Yeah.
And I always go back, like I have this little person in my brain that says, the light bulb, how many tries? It was not an obstacle, it was not a challenge, it was just the path to grow.
The path to grow.
Yes.
What a powerful reframe. What a powerful shift in perspective. It goes back to, you mentioned the language that you use, being very intentional with the language that you use, being very intentional about how you want to feel.
Yeah.
So looking at the obstacles or the challenges as the path to grow.
Yeah.
That's such an empowering perspective. It's empowering language. It's an entirely different feeling.
Correct.
And then from that space, you can take action. Yeah.
Because what happens from that space is you see possibilities.
Yeah.
Right? Because think about if you bought this red car, you never saw red cars on the road until you bought yours.
Yeah.
They were always there, but you never looked for them.
Yeah.
So if you come from that space, I'm always looking to learn.
Looking to learn, looking for possibilities, looking for opportunities, looking for innovation.
Yeah, looking to where do you fill the gap? How can you fill the gap so you can make somebody's life a little bit easier?
The sense of curiosity and wonder.
Yes, yes.
Being open. It sounds like it all comes to being open and going back to that child with the brain wondering about the sun's rays.
Yeah.
That innate curiosity and really feeding that and nurturing that rather than stifling it.
Correct. Yeah. I'm always curious about how does this, and with different mentors that I listen to, like Jim Rohn says, the time to fix the roof is before it rains. It's the time to have the map is before you go into the woods.
Yeah.
So looking for things before that bigger challenge happens, like how do you see those possibilities?
Yeah.
And how do you see yourself as a bridge for somebody?
Yeah.
To get to that next space.
Yeah. You're so clear. You're so clear on who you are and what your values are. And you really do an incredible job of standing guard at the gate of your mind, of being intentional with what you allow in, with the language that you use, with the values that you hold, with the boundaries that you set. How do you stay in such clear, strong alignment with your vision, your mission, your purpose?
Well, I'm going to get a little bit preacher child here. I believe in a higher power, and I believe that I'm a masterpiece.
Yeah.
Because God doesn't make mistakes.
Yeah.
We make mistakes.
Yeah.
But, like I tell my children, your mama didn't make no fool.
Yeah.
So please, right? So I try to stay in the power that we all are unique and powerful.
Yeah.
We just need to find what that power is.
Yeah.
What's our unique power? What's our unique gifts?
Has there been a time in your life when your power was taken from you?
Yes. Oh, yes. There are two instances. that I distinctly remember. One was more traumatic than the other. Mm-hmm. The first one was I had an ectopic pregnancy before my kids were born. And I was like, really? The lottery. I should have played the lottery. How many people have an ectopic pregnancy, right? Now, I was younger at that time and not as much wisdom.
Yeah.
So it was just like forming a company. What do I know about forming a company when I did my interior design? So it took on that, okay, that's how it is. Let's see what we can do and get to the next step, right? Mm-hmm. So odds, when somebody say, oh, the odds are only whatever, I was like, well, I'm one of the odd, right? Yeah. So that's why I don't like to take pills and numb whatever you need to numb. I'm like, okay, they say I can heal myself. Let's think about this first. Yeah. The other time was, which I did not know at the time, and it wasn't diagnosed, but I think this is what it was. My second child, there were many major life experiences happening at the same time, which I didn't realize. And I think it compounded the effect of this. We moved to a different state. Yep. My son was 3 months old. My daughter was 4.5. We moved to a different state, have a different house. Now I'm going to need a different job. Right. And my child will not stay with anyone. And having to juggle this new environment, having to take care of 2 children, not having that work relationship, I think I had postpartum depression. And it was really a feeling that I had never felt before. I didn't have any energy. I didn't have any enthusiasm. It was just really depressing. And I was like, what the heck is this? I have no idea. Went to the doctor. The doctor gave me some pills. Yeah. I went back home and I was like, okay, there are the pills. And I kept going. And then I was like, oh, this is really, like, I need to do something because I don't understand this. So I looked at the pills and I read the side effects. Now, I had had an ectopic pregnancy, right? So I read the side effects. Oh my God. I was like, what? My children need me. Flush it down the toilet, and that was it. It was like a switch. Yeah? It was like a switch. That was the end of the feeling that way, because in that moment, it wasn't about me anymore. Yes. It was about my kids. Like, I need to be here for my kids. I'm not going to drug myself up. Yeah. Now, I'm not saying don't take drugs. Please don't get me wrong. Yeah. I am saying that for me, that was not the right prescription. I needed to be present for my kids. Yeah. And I needed to not let that thing live in my head because
it couldn't afford the rent.
It could not afford the rent. And it's not that easy. For me, it was a switch because I think I'm a strong person. Yeah. In terms of more of a follower of certain things. I want to craft my own path. Yeah. I want to lead. So I'm like, no, I'm not taking that. And it was just one of those switches.
Where you took your power back.
Where I took my power back.
They say that when you're in overwhelm, when you're going into a darker place or having a tough time, that one of the fastest paths out of the darkness is through service of others. Through taking yourself out, shifting your focus on what can I do for someone today? How can I serve others? Who needs me? Yes. Because there's an interesting driver that as humans we have. We will often do more for others than we will do for ourselves. Yeah. We show up more for others than we show up for ourselves. We are kinder to others than we are to ourselves. And so when you go down the rabbit hole, one of the fastest ways to flip that switch is the service of others. And so it sounds like when you got out of the what's going on with me, how am I feeling, what is this that I'm experiencing, to, oh no, my kids need me.
Yes. It was that emotion that I had never felt before. in my entire life. This was very strange to me. And I could have dwelt on it, but I looked at the fact that I have 2 young kids that, oh my goodness, all these side effects? You had a choice. And in that moment, I flushed them down the toilet, and that was the end of that.
Life is a series of decisions, right? It is
absolutely
shaped by the decisions that we make. And what a beautiful thing that in each and every moment, we have the power to make the decision to live the life that we want. We have the power to make a decision, and in the moments of decision, destiny is shaped. Our life can change like that.
Yes. Sometimes those decisions are like a switch, and sometimes it's harder to switch.
Yeah.
So I do get that every instance is not going to be the same. There are things that are going to nag at us.
Yes.
And I think having a support group to actually talk about these things that understand, it's really, really critical.
Yeah.
To have that community that you can discuss these things or be yourself. It's really key to helping getting out of that obstacles. And then, like you said, the challenges as well. Just understanding, okay, one of the things I used to do when I was much younger, I kind of do it, but not consciously right now, is having stretch goals.
Okay.
And
what have been some of your stretch goals?
Well, one that I really remember is when I first entered the interior design profession, it's not like the computer science profession. The computer science profession is very teamwork. Interior design that I experienced was very me-focused. And to me, it came from a lack of, not an abundant mindset, that there's enough for everybody. So that was very strange to me.
Yeah.
And I'd go to trade shows just trying to learn the business. And I would ask people, well, how do you do this? Or how do you do that? And they would avoid the question. And I was like, well, what the heck? And at that time, I would be like, the heck with it, I'll figure it out. You know?
Right.
So my stretch goal at that time was to become somebody that is recognized in this world. So I was like, okay, well, how do you do that? What do you do?
Yeah.
Okay, I need to be published.
Okay.
I need to have an award of some sort. And I need to figure out how to get higher end clients. And I got published. Some of my work was on Open House NYC. TV people came and they filmed it and all of that. And so those were like stretch, if I could do this thing. And what is the path to getting there?
Yep. So I find that really interesting. I want to dive into a point that you brought up in that answer. So we've talked a lot about the internal and knowing that you're a masterpiece and loving yourself and valuing yourself and taking care of yourself. So for you, what did the accolades or the achievement, what did the external represent to you for your internal?
So it was one of those check boxes, really. I mean, I got published several times in the interior design world. I won awards, checkbox, checkbox, checkbox. And to be quite honest, that was not fulfilling.
Yeah.
It was just a thing.
Yeah.
And this is the other thing that it sort of represents in my life. It's like people ask, well, what do you do? And a lot of people say their profession.
Yeah.
Right? But what I do is help you take your next step. I'm your business Uber. Let me help you get from here to there. Right?
That's amazing. Your business Uber. I'm your business Uber. That's amazing.
I'll help you get from point A to point B. I'll leave you alone and then call me back when you're ready to go to point C with the things that I know how to do, right? Life is not like I am Mrs. So-and-so or I'm COO or CEO or to me, that's not who you are. Who you are is the person that you are.
So who are you?
Well, you know, sometimes that's a hard question. So I am happy with who I am. I wish I was further along, but I think a lot of times, most of us wish we were further along in our life journey. But I know that I'm where I'm supposed to be because it's written already. I totally believe that my life path is already written. And I was just saying to my husband and my sister-in-law, I was like, we were talking about, because we went to visit family, we were talking about death. And I was like, well, doesn't matter what I do. I'm going to die when I'm supposed to die, you know? So I'm comfortable with that. I'm comfortable with who I am. I'm comfortable with my skill set. I'm always learning. I'm extremely proud of my 2 children, and I'm extremely happy when they're around and we have fun, but I'm also extremely happy for friends.
Yeah.
I choose happiness. I'm always looking for, how can I make light of this? I don't take myself seriously, but I do serious things.
Yes.
And I want to have a calm life, a calm experience. Mm-hmm. I don't want to have to go through. So to me, I'm a person that is happy with who they are. And I try to bring value to people as much as I can because I want to leave my little part of the world better.
Yeah. So it's the end of your life, and it's the life best lived. It's all the things you could hope and dream, and you've accomplished everything you've wanted to accomplish, and you've lived fully, and you've chosen joy and happiness and peace. What do you want others to say about you? What do you want your legacy to be?
Well, I think I want, when people think about me, is that they light up. They remember some moment that we've had, something that I made a difference in just one little tiny speck of their life. Yeah. And I do want to, this is why I'm so passionate about online learning.
Yeah.
I do want to leave the little bit that I have online.
Yeah.
Because it can keep helping people long after I'm gone. This is why I'm passionate about people like teaching whatever they know and sharing their knowledge online, because it's so easy.
Yeah.
Right? Because after I'm gone, it can still be there. Yeah. It can still help somebody else. Yeah. Because there are certain things that don't change, right? Life lessons don't change. So those are some of the things that I would like to leave behind.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah. And when people say afternoon tea, they'll think of me.
Done. I will think moments that matter. I will think afternoon tea. Thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for what you're doing out in the world to help people create these incredible experiences. Thank you for helping them to create moments that matter.
For themselves as well.
Yeah, for themselves and for others.
Yeah.
So any last words of wisdom or any parting messages you would like to leave with our audience?
Yes. Life is lived in moments. Try to make as many of them memorable for yourself and for others. Don't let the moment pass. Just be aware that all you have right now is this moment. So live it well.
And on that note, how can people connect with you? How can they learn more about what you're doing?
So the website stuff is there, but the fastest way is LinkedIn under Sabrina Teekah.
Amazing. So connect with you on social media, on LinkedIn, find you, connect, and make some magical moments together.
There you go.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you again. Thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
Till next time.
Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed this episode of You Are Not Your Scars. Be sure to implement the tools and strategies shared today as you create a limitless life. Know that you are worthy, you are resilient, you are unbreakable, and you are unstoppable. Find more episodes of this podcast at youarenotyourScarsPodcast.com. While you may have been forged by fire, you are free by design.